Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today we are diving deep into, well, a really fascinating story. It's about Epic Chain, or Epic. This project is trying to stitch together some pretty dynamic and, frankly, complicated parts of Web3. You've got real-world asset tokenization.
Right, RWAs.
The entertainment industry, and some really cutting-edge Layer 2 tech. And all of this is happening alongside a major, kind of unexpected pivot toward the XRP ledger ecosystem.
It's quite the mix.
It really is. So our mission today, for you listening, is to figure out if this whole transformation, this comeback story, is actually sustainable. We need to unpack the architecture, this dual network thing they've got.
Yeah.
Look at their AI copyright protection, which sounds pretty neat. Understand the token utility and, decide if these moves really position Epic Chain as this global RWA superstructure they're talking about.
It's ambitious, that's for sure. And we've got the material to dig into it. The core is the Epic Chain white paper, version 0.2. Then there's recent market data, late October 2025, from the big exchanges, plus technical details from GitHub. That really outlines the migration strategy and how the new setup works.
And we need that context because, look, Epic Chain wasn't always Epic, right? They started as Eternity Chain.
That's right. They rebranded, I think it was September 2025, after a DAO vote.
And the original version, well, it struggled. The sources are pretty clear. It was a digital collectibles marketplace on Ethereum, but it faced this major decline. What were the twin demons, so to speak, that really hurt them initially?
Well, it boiled down to speed and trust, really. First, operating directly on Ethereum Layer 1 meant, super high gas fees, transactions were slow, just wasn't practical for creators or brands wanting affordable content.
Right, kills the volume.
Exactly. And second, maybe even more importantly, they just couldn't stop the counterfeits. The whole marketplace got flooded with unauthorized stuff, pirated collectibles, user trust just eroded.
Okay.
So this new Epic Chain architecture is basically a direct technical answer to those two big failures.
Gotcha. So let's get into that technical resurrection. Section 1, the L2 setup and this big XRP pivot. How did they tackle speed and cost?
Okay, so they went with this two-pronged strategy, a dual chain approach. For efficiency, they're in Ethereum Layer 2, and they specifically use Optimism's open source OpStack.
Optimism. Why that stack specifically?
Well, the thinking was it's battle-tested, secure, and lots of developers already know it. Familiarity helps adoption.
Makes sense for security, especially with big IP holders involved. But the efficiency part, how exactly are they getting these big speed boosts and fee cuts compared to, say, other L2s?
Okay. This is where it gets a bit technical, but the benefit is simple. They use Optimistic Rollups, standard practice, bundles transactions off-chain.
Right.
But the interesting part is their implementation of the latest OpStack Delta upgrade. And that includes something called span batches.
Span batches. Okay, What's the deal with those?
Think of it like, instead of just bundling transactions, you're compacting a whole bunch of L2 blocks worth of data into one super optimized package before sending it to Ethereum L1. It's a much more efficient data compression for rollups.
Okay, compressing the data more effectively. So what does that actually mean for, say, a creator using the platform in terms of cost?
The result is pretty dramatic because the cost of verifying that data on Ethereum gets spread across way more transactions much more efficiently. The sources indicate they can cut roll-up gas fees by up to 93%.
Wow, okay. 93% reduction. That's a genuine game changer for anyone doing high volume transactions, like in the creator economy.
Absolutely. It makes the whole thing economically viable.
But that still leaves the other big piece, the strategic gamble, maybe, the pivot to XRP. It sounds a bit like they're trying to ride two horses here, Ethereum and XRP. Why isn't that just complicated? Why is it a feature?
That's the key question, isn't it? So the Ethereum L2 gives them security, that EVM compatibility, access to all those developers. That's crucial. But Ethereum, even L2s, can still be relatively slow for final settlement. And for institutions, there's sometimes friction. The XRP ledger migration, which they finished back in August, that was all about tapping into XRP's specific strengths.
Which are?
Primarily, near instant settlement speed, we're talking 3 to 5 seconds. And its existing infrastructure, particularly for cross-border payments and institutional use. Okay,
so Ethereum for the dev side and security, XRP for the speed and the money movement side. Is that the idea?
That's pretty much it. They built an EVM-compatible sidechain on the XRP ledger. the goal. They anticipate cutting overall transaction costs by about 40% compared to just staying on Ethereum.
40% is still significant.
It is.
Yeah.
And maybe even more critical for their RWA ambitions, this setup makes it much easier to integrate with Ripple USD or RLUSD.
Okay, RLUSD. We hear that mentioned a lot with RWAs. Why is having a native dollar stablecoin on the XRP ledger so important for attracting serious partners?
Because those serious partners think banks, real estate funds, big commodity players, they're generally risk averse. They're not going to settle million-dollar deals in a crypto asset that bounces around in price.
Makes sense.
RLUSD means they're dealing with a regulated, dollar-backed, stable asset that lives natively within that fast XRP ecosystem. It just streamlines everything for USD settlements. That makes Epic Chain look much more credible to traditional finance.
All right, let's switch gears. Section 2, tackling that trust and piracy problem. The original Eternity chain failed partly because of counterfeits. Now they're using AI. How does that work?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. The AI-powered copyright protection isn't just an add-on. It's like baked into the network's foundation.
Baked in how?
They've integrated an AI matching engine right into the execution layer. So when someone tries to deploy a contract, like for an NFT collection, this engine intercepts the metadata, the image, the text, whatever it is.
Whoa, okay. So the network itself is screening the art before it's even fully minted. Does that slow down deployment?
Apparently not significantly. They say the processing happens asynchronously. So the AI does its thing in the background. It calculates a similarity score, basically a percentage match, against this huge database of known authenticated assets.
Authenticated assets from where?
From major chains like Ethereum, Solana, Polygon.
Yeah.
Cross-verified by platforms like OpenSea. It's a curated training set.
Okay. But hang on, if I'm an artist and I make something totally new, but maybe it just looks a bit like a popular style, does my original work get flagged just based on a similarity score? How reliable is that?
That's definitely a challenge they had to consider. The key seems to be the threshold. Only tokens that go over a certain defined similarity percentage get flagged, and that score gets stored permanently on-chain.
Okay.
But the system prioritizes known ownership. If the AI sees that the contract trying to deploy is using the exact same address or deployer wallet as a contract already authenticated elsewhere, like on Ethereum.
So if it's the same creator wallet.
Exactly. Then the similarity score is automatically set to 0. It recognizes the established provenance instantly.
But what if a famous artist moves to Epic Chain and decides to use a brand new wallet for security? They haven't linked it yet. They'd get flagged, right? Even though they're legitimate.
They would. And that's where a manual step comes in. If an original author gets flagged using a new wallet, they have to basically prove it's them.
Ow.
Usually by doing a small, specific transaction from their original verified wallet, the one on Ethereum, say to a special contract on Epic Chain. It's like a cryptographic handshake linking the new wallet back to the old verified identity. Proves ownership beyond just the AI's visual check.
Okay, that makes sense. There's a fallback. So all this tech, the L2, the XRP link, the AI sounds heavy on security and efficiency, maybe aimed at developers or institutions. But what about regular users or brands? Entering Web3 is still hard. You need coders, auditors.
Right, and they seem to have recognized that barrier. That's where the plug-and-play toolkit comes in. It's designed to tackle that user-friendliness problem head-on.
Plug-and-play toolkit, what is it?
It's basically a set of no-code, drag-and-drop web tools. The whole point is to let a brand, or even an individual creator, launch tokens or digital collectibles without needing to hire Solidity developers or pay for expensive audits. You can apparently do it in minutes.
So like Web3 for non-techies.
Kind of, yeah. Aimed at lowering the barrier to entry significantly.
And what can you actually do with this toolkit? What features are included?
It seems quite comprehensive. When you create a new token, maybe a social token for your community or whatever, you get options. You can store the initial supply in a secure Founder's Vault.
Okay, like a safety deposit box for the initial mint. Smart.
Exactly. You can also instantly generate a DAO page for community governance around that token. And importantly, you can set up simple e-commerce pages right away.
E-commerce for what?
To let people buy stuff, could be real-world merchandise or digital assets using the new token you just created. They're trying to connect token creation directly to business utility, not just speculation.
Making tokenization a business tool, not just a tech project. I get it.
And for digital collectibles, the NFT side, there's a creator tool to generate them quickly, and they immediately become available for sale in Epic Chain's own marketplace.
Okay, so the tools are there. This feeds back into that RWA superstructure idea. Are there actual products using this now, generating real revenue, proving the model works?
Yes. The main example they highlight is Fawnable. That's their flagship platform for consumers focused on tokenized collectibles.
Fawnable. Okay. Is it getting traction?
According to the sources, yes. It's apparently generating over $1.2 million in annual on-chain fees already.
$1.2 million. That's not insignificant. That shows real usage.
It does. It demonstrates there's demand for authenticated digital collectibles, especially when the transaction costs are lower. And they're backing it up with security partnerships, physical securities like Brinks, digital custody like Sifu. That's important for bridging digital assets with the kind of protection needed for real-world value.
Right, connecting the digital token to actual secured assets. Is that $1.2 million enough to support the whole infrastructure, though? Or is it more like a strong proof of concept?
It's definitely strong proof of concept volume right now, but it shows the fee potential. And they're pushing the RWA utility beyond just collectibles. The Epic One card is a big part of that.
Ah, yes, the XRP cashback card. Tell me about that.
It's positioned as a premier card, offering up to 8% back in XRP rewards, and it's accepted globally like a normal payment card.
Okay, so that's the bridge, right? Turning token value into spending power.
Exactly. That's the direct link. If you have tokenized assets on Epic Chain, maybe a fraction of something valuable or yield from staking the card is the mechanism to unlock that value for everyday spending. They also mention other products like 0x loans for using NFTs as collateral. It's all about making blockchain value liquid and useful in the real world.
All right. Let's zoom in on the fuel for this engine. Section 4, the EPIC token itself, formerly EARN, now the governance token. What's the basic setup, the tokenomics?
Pretty straightforward on supply. The current circulating supply is 30 million EPIC. And crucially, that's also the total supply. It's capped.
Fixed supply. Okay, no future inflation plan then. What makes someone want to actually hold EPIC? What's the utility?
There are 4 main things. First, governance. Holders get to vote through the DAO on platform development, where grant money goes, things like that. Standard DAO stuff.
Okay.
Second, staking and yield. They call it universal staking. You can earn rewards and various other ERC-20 tokens, plus this thing called stones, which you can redeem for assets. But the standout feature, tying back to the strategy,
Let me guess, involves XRP.
you got it. You can specifically earn yield paid out in XRP. That really incentivizes participation in the XRP side of their ecosystem.
Definitely aligns incentives. What else? User experience.
That's number 3, gasless transactions. For most things you do on the platform using EPIC, you don't need to hold separate ETH just to pay for gas. They use account abstraction.
Ah, so the EPIC token itself sort of handles the underlying gas cost.
Yeah, it abstracts it away from the user. That's a big deal for onboarding people who aren't crypto natives. Removes a major point of friction.
Huge friction killer. Okay, number 4.
Fourth is carbon offset. They commit a percentage of the trading volume of EPIC towards carbon offsetting projects. A bit of an ESG angle.
Interesting. Okay, looking at the market, October 24th, 2025 data shows the price around, what, $0.87 to 91 cents. Market cap about $27 million. But the all-time high was way up at $3.20 just back in August. What happened there? Big swing.
Yeah, massive volatility. That spike was directly tied to the $1 million ecosystem ignition program they launched in July. It was designed to attract RWA and gaming projects.
So the hype cycle kicked in?
Big time. It caused a huge speculative run-up, 340% price increase very quickly. The technical indicators showed it got way overheated. The RSI, Relative Strength Index, hit something like 98.28.
Wow, yeah, 98 is extremely overbought territory.
Exactly. So a correction was pretty much inevitable. What we're seeing now is likely the market finding a more stable level after that frenzy.
High risk, high reward, fueled by promotion. Okay, so where do they see the next wave of growth coming from? Something more sustainable, perhaps?
Well, their Q4 2025 roadmap has a big item. Global fiat pair expansion. Meaning they want to integrate EPIC and their whole RWA system directly with local banking systems. They're targeting key markets in Asia and the West. The goal is ambitious.
How ambitious?
They're talking about connecting to potentially over 1 billion bank accounts.
A billion? Wow.
The idea is to create super simple on-ramps and off-ramps for regular people, bypassing the complexities of current crypto exchanges for many users, moving straight into retail finance.
Okay, so pulling this all together, Epic Chain seems to have built this 3-part strategy for their comeback, right? You've got the tech foundation L2 efficiency plus XRT speed. You've got the AI layer for trust and security. And you've got clear utility trying to bridge consumer stuff like Fawnable with more serious capital market applications using RLUSD.
That's a good summary. They're definitely making an aggressive play to bridge the digital world with traditional assets and finance. They address their original failings, cost, and counterfeits with some pretty sophisticated tech layering.
Right. So the core takeaway for you listening is probably that this isn't just another NFT project anymore. It's a serious attempt to build infrastructure for the RWA space, particularly aiming at institutions eventually, but starting with consumer-friendly tools and products. Success really hinges on whether people and brands actually adopt this complex dual-chain system they've built.
Absolutely. The vision is huge, that $50 trillion RWA superstructure. And their positioning is unique, leveraging both Ethereum's dev community and XRP's institutional rails. Which does bring up a final thought, a question really.
Go for it.
Given this unique technical setup and ambition, how quickly do you think regulatory clarity, or lack thereof, will impact their ability to actually achieve that vision of a global, liquid $50 trillion RWA market? What's the biggest hurdle you see standing in their way?